Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite. I am your host, Jim Chapman, and today I am bringing you another Sean Diddy Combs update. Now, in the last several weeks, there have been several lawsuits that have come out that are brand new regarding Sean Diddy Combs, and in addition to that, a lot of other movements in the case that we're going to discuss, and we're going to jump right into it. In this first absolutely disgusting lawsuit, it was filed by a Jane Doe against Sean Combs, Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings, Bad Boy Records, Combs Enterprises, and John Doe number 1 and John Doe number 2. And there's a preliminary statement that starts with this lawsuit. It says Jane Doe was a 16-year-old high school student residing with her parents in Lower Manhattan. She worked part-time as a babysitter at an apartment building around the corner from where she lived. In the apartment where she babysat, a well-known woman whom the defendant was in a relationship with also resided there. On or about late August or early September of 2000, when she was 16 years old, just before school started, the plaintiff was working as a babysitter in the building where Combs' romantic partner lived. As she was leaving the babysitting job and was exiting the building, the plaintiff came upon Combs, who was in the presence of two male individuals who apparently worked for him. Combs was sitting in a car with the door open. Combs engaged her in conversation, asking where she was going so late at night, and that it was not safe for her to be walking alone. What a nice guy. She advised Combs that she lived around the corner, was familiar with the neighborhood, and she would be fine. Combs offered a ride home several times, which she continued to refuse. After much cajoling by Combs, she agreed and got into his car. Getting into Combs' car that day was something the plaintiff would come to regret forever. During the ride, the plaintiff became scared when they did not drop her off at home as they promised. The defendants instead gave her a drink to, quote, calm her down. She soon became groggy and unsteady. Combs and his staff, the two male co-defendants, proceeded to a location where she was sexually assaulted by Combs. Then it gets into the factual allegations. It says the plaintiff grew up in New York City and was raised by her father and stepmother. In 2000, the plaintiff was a student at the Museum School High School in New York City. On or about late August or early September of 2000, the plaintiff was asked by defendant Combs to allow him to drive her home, even though she lived around the corner. After refusing, she eventually agreed and got into an SUV with Combs while the driver started the trip. Because the drive was so short, the plaintiff began to get upset when the driver drove past her building and not stopping to drop her off. Scared and upset, Combs offered her a drink to calm down, after which she soon felt drugged and weak. And of course, there's that MO, right? She and Combs were driven to a location by John Doe number 1 and John Doe number 2 where the plaintiff was raped by Combs. She was eventually taken home and left in the lobby of her building by the same driver, John Doe number 1 and John Doe number 2, who was present when she was picked up. And that is short but telling in this lawsuit. Now, this one was actually filed January 16th of 2025, and somehow I missed that one in the preceding episodes of this series. So there you have it. And we're going to get a little more current with this second lawsuit. This was filed on February 4th of 2025. and it's a John Doe, and he is suing Sean Combs and Sean Combs Companies, as well as Doe defendants 11 through 20, and we'll get into it. This one a little bit longer and a little bit more detailed. So the factual allegations are as follows. In or around 2007, the plaintiff was recognized as one of the premier entertainers in the Las Vegas adult entertainment scene. The plaintiff worked with multiple adult entertainment agencies and received his professional engagements through those agencies. As a popular and frequently sought-out entertainer, plaintiff maintained a high professionalism. Both plaintiff and the clients operated under pseudonyms, such that the plaintiff did not know the identity of the person he was meeting until he arrived at the engagement and met the client. Both the plaintiff and his agencies clearly communicated his boundaries and limitations to the clients at the onset of his engagements. In or around 2007, the plaintiff was booked through one of his agencies to perform at a strip show in a hotel room in Las Vegas, and in accordance with standard procedure, the plaintiff did not know who he was meeting until he arrived. On this occasion, that client was Sean Combs. When plaintiff arrived, Combs conducted a full-body pat-down. The plaintiff commenced his performance, which consisted of dancing and stripping. When the performance concluded, Combs paid the plaintiff $1,500. In the following months, Combs booked the plaintiff for at least 2 additional engagements in Las Vegas through the plaintiff's agencies. As was the standard procedure, the client's name was not revealed ahead of time, and the plaintiff did not know he would be meeting Combs again until he arrived at the hotel room. Each time, Combs was present in the room with a different woman. On these additional engagements through the plaintiff's agencies, Combs offered the plaintiff beverages, which the plaintiff consumed. There's that MO. Combs asked the plaintiff to apply baby oil to the plaintiff's skin during the performances, which the plaintiff did. After applying that baby oil, the plaintiff became unusually sleepy, disoriented, confused, exhausted, drowsy, weak, confused, sluggish, numb, and alarmed by the sensation of being trapped in his own body. And before I go any further with this, as you'll remember in prior episodes, we discussed the fact that possibly that baby oil was spiked with drugs. So the plaintiff felt a heavy sensation behind his eyes and felt that moving his body became more difficult and exhausting. While the plaintiff was in a disoriented state, Combs instructed him to perform acts that were outside of the scope of the agreed-upon performance and limitations set by the plaintiff and his agency. Combs instructed the plaintiff to engage in acts such as masturbating while Combs and the woman engaged in sexual intercourse. Plaintiff left in an incapacitated state after applying the baby oil to his skin, found himself mentally and physically unable to resist or express his discomfort, leading to his unwilling compliance with Combs' demands. Once the intoxicating effects of the substances had subsided, plaintiff felt a deep sense of humiliation and shame for being coerced into such acts. Then, on or around the 3rd time that Combs booked the plaintiff through an agency, Combs asked the plaintiff to stop working with his agencies and to work directly for Combs instead. The plaintiff responded that he was experiencing financial difficulty and could not afford to stop working for the agencies. The plaintiff explained that he earned his livelihood by working for his agencies as an adult entertainer, but that he hoped to become a music artist. Upon learning that plaintiff was an aspiring musician, Combs offered to listen to the plaintiff's music and expressed a willingness to help him advance in his music career. Combs made statements such as, "I can make you a millionaire overnight," and "I can change your life in a second." Combs specified that he would give the plaintiff $1 million for each song the plaintiff wrote for him. The plaintiff was excited for what felt like a tremendous opportunity, having a direct connection to one of the most prominent and powerful figures in the music industry, who was known to have made ordinary people into stars. It felt like an incredible stroke of luck and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the plaintiff to achieve those dreams. The plaintiff hoped to impress Combs and earn the chance to become successful in the music industry. Combs asked the plaintiff for his phone number so that Combs could contact him directly, and the plaintiff gave his phone number to Combs. After the plaintiff provided Combs with his contact information, Combs invited him to meet on several occasions, offering to listen to his music. Believing that Combs would review his work, the plaintiff accepted these invitations and traveled to meet Combs in locations including Las Vegas, New York City, Los Angeles, and Miami. Maintaining the appearance of professional interest, Combs purchased airline tickets and hotel accommodations for the plaintiff through his record company, Bad Boy Records. After Combs began to arrange their meetings directly rather than through the agency, Combs' behavior shifted in the absence of the agency overseeing the transaction. When the plaintiff arrived to Combs' locations, which ranged from hotel rooms in various cities to Combs' properties in various states, Combs regularly conducted a full-body pat-down and confiscated the plaintiff's phone when he arrived. How many times have we heard that? The plaintiff was aware that Combs had been involved in shootings and violent altercations in the past, and he felt deeply fearful of doing anything that could upset or anger Combs. Combs reinforced his fraudulent display of professional interest by setting up mobile studios and frequently playing his upcoming music releases for hours on end, showcasing his prominence in the music industry to the plaintiff. At nearly every gathering, Combs issued grandiose promises of career assistance to plaintiff, boasting of his ability to make people millionaires and change lives overnight. Combs even suggested that the plaintiff could become his manager and help him run Bad Boy Entertainment. At Combs' request, the plaintiff brought recordings of his music for Combs to listen to. However, each time, Combs quickly shifted the conversation away from the plaintiff's music and directed the plaintiff to perform a strip show. He wasn't really trying to help that guy. During the strip shows, there was usually a woman present with Combs. On some occasions, other men and women were also present. Combs typically required the plaintiff to get undressed and leave his clothes in another room. Combs then barricaded the participants inside the room where the strip show would take place by placing furniture and other objects in front of the front door. Being physically confined in that room without his phone, clothes, or other belongings, along with Combs' firearm serving as a visual reminder that Combs was armed, that made the plaintiff feel trapped, fearful, and as though he were not free to leave. Combs offered the plaintiff beverages, which the plaintiff sometimes consumed. Combs routinely asked the plaintiff to apply baby oil to the plaintiff's skin during the strip show. Following the application of the baby oil, the plaintiff became drowsy, lethargic, weak, and numb, although the plaintiff did not connect these effects with the baby oil until years later. Combs frequently pushed the plaintiff to apply more baby oil, saying things like, quote, "You're getting a little dull. Rub some baby oil on yourself." If the plaintiff refused to apply the baby oil, Combs became irate. And we've talked about that many times. He does not like to be told no. On multiple occasions, Combs squirted large amounts of baby oil on the plaintiff's skin, coating his skin so heavily that it would drip off his body. Each time that the plaintiff applied the baby oil, he was overcome with the same drowsy, extremely tired sensation. Plaintiff would feel his eyes become heavy, and when he looked into the mirror, his eyes appeared droopy. The overwhelming drowsiness caused him to fall asleep for unknown periods of time. Often he laid down on the couch, alternating between sleeping and waking. After applying the baby oil, the plaintiff became uncoordinated and confused. The plaintiff stumbled over furniture and objects and got lost when trying to find his way to and from the bathroom, and even once fell asleep in the bathroom. On one occasion, Combs asked the plaintiff to record sexual activity with a camera, but the plaintiff was unable to hold the camera straight without swaying his arm. When the plaintiff was in this drowsy and confused state, Combs directed the plaintiff to masturbate and to engage in sexual contact with the woman present, including touching the woman's breast and engaging in sexual intercourse with her. On these occasions, Combs placed his hand on the plaintiff's penis and stroked the plaintiff's penis. The plaintiff tried to communicate at the outset of the meetings that his performances were limited to stripping and dancing and that he was not willing to engage in sexual activity. Yet if the plaintiff refused the beverages that Combs provided, or hesitated to apply baby oil to his skin, Combs would become enraged, scream at the plaintiff, throw objects, and clench his fist as if he were about to punch the plaintiff. On several occasions, the plaintiff found his penis involuntarily erect, even though he was not sexually aroused. On these occasions, the plaintiff noticed that his heart was beating quickly and he would feel faint. The plaintiff commented on what he was feeling, and Combs stated that he had put Viagra in the plaintiff's drink to make the plaintiff able to sexually perform. Combs produced a bag of light blue pills and showed them to the plaintiff. Combs also forced the plaintiff to consume unknown substances. When plaintiff was sitting or lying down and experiencing the aforementioned effects of applying baby oil, Combs frequently placed a pill in the plaintiff's mouth and watched him to ensure he swallowed it. Combs asked the plaintiff to open his mouth and lift his tongue to ensure he had not hidden the pill. After ingesting the pills, the physical and physiological effects that the plaintiff was experiencing intensified, such that the plaintiff could not fully control his body. Particularly, the plaintiff's sense of tiredness, confusion, and lack of coordination was compounded with a heightened sense of calm, numbness, and indifference. During most encounters, Combs demanded the plaintiff engage in sexual activity with the woman who was present. This included touching her breast, vagina, and buttocks, and engaging in vaginal intercourse. Combs often positioned his face directly between the plaintiff's and the woman's genitals to closely monitor and ensure they were engaging in penetration. Often, Combs demanded the plaintiff ejaculate on the woman's body or in her mouth, causing the plaintiff to feel deeply humiliated and degraded. On one of these occasions, the plaintiff observed Combs rub the plaintiff's semen on the woman's body and then licked the plaintiff's semen with his tongue. Occasionally, the plaintiff and the woman expressed hesitation or appeared visibly uncomfortable with Combs' demand. At any sign of hesitation or defiance, Combs became enraged. Combs would scream and curse, throw objects, topple furniture, and swing his fists at the plaintiff as they'd hit him. On several occasions, when the plaintiff did not comply with Combs' demands immediately, Combs forcefully grabbed the plaintiff by the shaft of his penis, causing a physical pain, and forced the plaintiff's penis into the woman's vagina. On some occasions, Combs touched and stroked the plaintiff's penis. The plaintiff's encounters with Combs lasted for extended periods of time, sometimes more than 18 hours at a time. Despite the plaintiff informing Combs that he charged a set hourly rate for his stripping engagements, Combs constantly underpaid the plaintiff. Each time Combs invited the plaintiff to meet under the guise of listening to his music, he instead required the plaintiff to strip and engage in sexual acts, subsequently paying the plaintiff a sum of money that was substantially less than the plaintiff's rate. The plaintiff often attempted to set time limits on the meeting and discuss payment, but Combs disregarded these conversations and made comments such as, "Aren't we friends now?" On more than one occasion, after awakening, the plaintiff discovered that semen was seeping out of his anus. Plaintiff believed that Combs had raped him, as Combs was the only other male present at these occasions. On the occasions, Combs paid the plaintiff a substantially larger sum of money. Prior to each occasion that plaintiff met Combs, plaintiff believed he would be able to resist any sexual advances or requests that would arise. But each time, after applying baby oil to his body, the plaintiff found himself unable to summon the mental acuity or physical strength to resist Combs' demands. It was not until years later that the plaintiff made the connection that Combs used baby oil to mentally and physically impair him, with the intention that the plaintiff submit to Combs' sexual demands. On one occasion, soon after Combs began arranging their meetings directly, the plaintiff discovered a hidden camera in the room and became visibly agitated and distressed at the prospect of being recorded. Combs confirmed that he had previously recorded the plaintiff engaging in sexual activity, and he maintained the videotapes. and that he would release the videos and ruin the plaintiff's reputation if the plaintiff did not comply with his demands. Combs made statements such as, "I can change your life in a second and make you a millionaire overnight, but I have means and ways of taking care of things." The plaintiff understood Combs' threats to mean that the plaintiff angered or defied Combs. Combs would not only withdraw his promised support of the plaintiff's music career, but he would blackmail the plaintiff with sexually graphic videotape. Over the next several years, Combs and members of his team regularly reached out to the plaintiff to set meetings. Sometimes days or weeks elapsed between these meetings, while sometimes weeks or months would pass. Often, Combs' requests to meet the plaintiff coincided with Combs' appearances at major events, such as performances, presentations, and award shows. If the plaintiff ever declined to meet Combs, Combs then reached out to the plaintiff directly, threatening him, making statements such as, "I can make you disappear," and, quote, "things aren't going to get better for you," and threatening to release the videotapes made of the plaintiff. Deeply afraid and believing Combs would follow through with these threats, the plaintiff submitted to Combs' demands. In addition to hiring the plaintiff to perform for him, Combs also insisted the plaintiff send Combs sexually explicit photos of the plaintiff's penis. Afraid of the potential consequences of refusing, the plaintiff complied. In or around 2010, after years of Combs instilling fear in the plaintiff, misleading the plaintiff, and manipulating him, with promises that never materialized, it finally became clear to the plaintiff that Combs had no intention of supporting the plaintiff's career. At this point, the plaintiff realized he needed to find a way to escape Combs' manipulation and abuse. During the next 2 years, the plaintiff made repeated attempts to distance himself from Combs. Each time they spoke on the phone, the plaintiff experienced intense anxiety, with his heart racing, yet Combs refused to accept no for an answer. Combs used threats to exert control, warning the plaintiff, "You're not loyal. Who are you going to tell about this? Don't forget, I have tapes of you." The plaintiff found himself trapped in an abusive cycle from which he felt he could not escape. The plaintiff's last encounter with Combs was in or around 2012, close to the time that the plaintiff got married. The plaintiff hoped that his marriage could serve as a boundary that Combs may respect. Yet Combs continued to call him persistently for months, pressuring the plaintiff to return. Since his last encounter with Combs, the plaintiff has experienced a strong and unrelenting desire to come forward about Combs' abuse, but was deterred by his fears that Combs would follow through with his threats and release compromising videos of the plaintiff and irreputably harm the plaintiff's reputation. Worse, the plaintiff feared that Combs or his agents or companies or representatives would take steps to seriously harm the plaintiff and his family, as Combs had repeatedly emphasized he was capable and willing to do. On November 16th of 2023, Cassandra Ventura filed a civil lawsuit against Combs, and more individuals filed civil lawsuits. The plaintiff gathered the courage to begin searching for legal representation, but he continued to fear the consequences of bringing his own lawsuit against Combs. On October 3rd of 2024, an individual representing Combs reached out to the plaintiff to insist on an in-person meeting, further intensifying the plaintiff's fears for his safety. But Combs' recent arrest and the subsequent denials of his bail applications provided the plaintiff with a small measure of comfort and protection, conferring on him a newfound confidence that Combs will remain incarcerated and thus be less likely to release the videotapes or otherwise harm him. And that is that man's absolutely wild story and experience with Sean Combs. And I'm going to move on to a third lawsuit filed on February 3rd of 2025. And this was filed by another John Doe through his attorneys and the Busby law firm. And it was against Sean Combs, all of Sean Combs' companies, and individual Does 1 through 10. And this John Doe resided in California, and the factual allegations are as follows. In 2015, Doe, a music performer, pursuing a career as a rapper and singer, actively sought opportunities to establish himself in the music industry. In 2015, his career had started gaining momentum. In that year, he received multiple invitations to open for well-known artists and venues across California. During that time, Doe secured an opportunity to perform as an opener for a popular musical artist at a series of nightclub appearances in Los Angeles. One of these performances was scheduled to take place at QC's 2020 in Southeast Los Angeles. At that event, Combs did not plan to perform, but attended anyway as his record company had an interest in the show. Combs and his team provided hundreds of bottles of his own Ciroc vodka, which was distributed at the venue. Before Doe's performance, a longtime and well-known associate of Combs told Doe that Combs had heard he was talented and would be watching him perform. The associate specifically told Doe that if he performed well, Combs would discuss getting a deal with Bad Boy Records and arrange studio time between him and Combs, and he was excited about the opportunity. Doe performed his set and believed he put on an excellent performance. Later that night, Doe attended an after-party at QC's 2020. The party took place in the back of the club, which also had separate breakout rooms. While in the VIP section, he recognized other well-known artists and entertainers, many of whom were partaking in drugs. The section also contained countless bottles of Combs vodka, Ciroc, provided by Combs and Bad Boy Records, along with other substances such as marijuana, cocaine, and ecstasy. An associate of Combs handed Doe a Ciroc-based alcoholic beverage said to be from Combs himself. After drinking it, Doe became lightheaded, began slipping in and out of consciousness, and it became clear to him that something was wrong. He realized he had been drugged and soon lost total consciousness. While drifting in and out of consciousness, Doe observed Combs and his entourage engaging in group sex, often with other attendees who appeared either drugged, unconscious, or as if they were paid escorts. Doe believed most of the men participating in the sexual activities belonged to Combs' entourage. At one point, Doe regained consciousness from a physical jolt and found Combs grabbing his crotch while his pants had already been removed. Combs was groping him. Doe believed that Combs had performed oral sex on him because his penis was noticeably wet. After regaining consciousness and realizing the danger that he was in, Doe attempted to fight Combs off, but Combs' security team stepped in. Combs threatened Doe, stating that he could easily contact his manager and ruin any chances he had of succeeding in the music industry if he did not comply. Terrified and realizing he was far outnumbered by Combs' security, Doe pretended to comply for his own safety. Combs then ordered Doe to have sex with a woman he did not know while Combs wanted to watch. Doe pretended to agree, but made an excuse, claiming he needed water and to use the restroom before he could engage in sex. Combs allowed his security team to let Doe up to use the restroom, and Doe used this as an opportunity to sneak out of the venue, make his way to the parking lot, jump in the car which he had driven to the show, and drove off. As a result of Combs' sexual assault, Doe experienced damages including pain and suffering, mental anguish, physical impairment, and emotional torment. Further, this assault greatly affected Doe's passion for music, leading him to abandon his aspirations for many years. The reality and dark underbelly of the industry, as revealed through his encounter with Combs, ended his desire and dreams to pursue a career in that world. Because of Combs' power and notoriety, Doe was afraid to immediately report what had happened and did not want to be blackballed by the industry. Doe became yet another sexual assault victim of Combs through the same pattern and abuse of influence Combs exercised over others previously. And you can't say it any better than that. A pattern indeed. And we're going to move on to this fourth lawsuit. This was by Jane Doe, represented by Antigone Curis. We've covered some of her stuff before, against Sean Combs and all his companies. And this Jane Doe is a female who resided in New York. And the factual allegations are as follows. In the 1980s and through the 1990s, Plaintiff was part of a hip-hop scene that was developing in New York City. She appeared in numerous music videos for various hip-hop artists and participated in other projects within the industry. As a result of the plaintiff's participation in the hip-hop scene in these years, the plaintiff crossed paths with defendant Combs numerous times. She suffered several incidences of sexual assault at Combs' hands while traveling to other states, including California. These assaults, described herein, however, occurred in New York. In 1997, the plaintiff was encouraged to attend a party at Combs' house in the Hamptons by a DJ friend known as Scoop, who told her she could earn $2,000 working as a bottle service attendant at that party. The plaintiff met a group near 96 in Amsterdam in New York City and got into a stretch luxury SUV with approximately 5 other people. They were driven to the Hamptons and they arrived at a large upscale gathering with guests dressed in white. Upon arrival, plaintiff and the others were provided black dresses to wear and were taken to a separate room to wait until they were called to join the main party. While they waited, Combs entered the room. He encouraged everyone to drink from the coolers and offered marijuana. After consuming one drink, the plaintiff began to feel woozy, slipping in and out of consciousness. During this state, the plaintiff recalls seeing several of Combs' male associates. The plaintiff was then sexually assaulted and vaginally raped by Combs' associates at Combs' direction while Combs was present. The plaintiff recalled seeing Combs fully naked at one point and witnessing another man sodomizing him. Plaintiff believed that the assault may have been videotaped and later reached out to Combs to request he delete the video, but Combs refused to comply. A separate assault occurred in the late 1990s in New York City. The plaintiff attended an event hosted by Combs at the Limelight nightclub in New York City. Combs organized the event, spanning 5 floors of the club, with the top 2 floors dedicated to exclusive sex parties involving group sexual activities directed by and involving Combs. The plaintiff attended this event with 2 friends. At one point, her friends went upstairs and began arguing, leaving the plaintiff downstairs alone. The plaintiff attempted to leave, but Combs stopped her, stating she could not leave without her friends. Eventually, the plaintiff's friends returned. However, Combs, along with the security guard, took the plaintiff and another of her friends from Limelight to the Trump Hotel in Midtown Manhattan in the early morning hours. Neither the plaintiff nor her friend wished to go, but Combs made it clear that they did not have a choice. After arriving at the hotel, the plaintiff and her friend were taken to a penthouse suite where additional men had joined Combs. The plaintiff and her friend were held in that room without the ability to leave. They were drugged and forced to participate in group sexual activity during which she was sexually assaulted over the next several hours. For instance, the plaintiff was vaginally raped by a club promoter at Combs' direction, while Combs watched. After Combs and the other men were finished assaulting them, Combs allowed the plaintiff and her friend to leave the hotel. As a result of these events, the plaintiff has suffered severe emotional and mental anguish. That lawsuit was brought on February 4th of 2025. Just mind-blowing shit right there by this asshole. And we're going to move on to some other news that had came out. There was another Diddy lawsuit that arose. I'm not going to read you the lawsuit, but I'll reference this article by TMZ. It says another Diddy lawsuit has arrived. A woman has filed a lawsuit against Sean Combs, accusing the hip-hop mogul of forcing her to consume a drink before assaulting her inside an LA nightclub. The lawsuit, followed under a Jane Doe, alleges the assault took place on November 2016 at Club Playhouse. According to the complaint, Diddy aggressively slid a drink toward her, intimidating her into drinking it. After she complied, he allegedly put his right arm around her in a side hug while shoving his left hand under her skirt, forcefully penetrating her with his fingers. During the assault, she claims he told her, "Bitch, I do what I want. Take that shit." She also alleges his entourage stood nearby laughing as it happened. Doe said she managed to escape and left the club, hailing a ride back to her hotel. She recalls feeling disoriented and needing help to reach her room. The next morning, she discovered bruising and a tear in and around her vaginal area, which she attributes to the assault. Diddy's legal team denies the allegations, calling the lawsuit baseless. In a statement, his attorney said no matter how many lawsuits are filed, especially by individuals who refuse to put their own names behind their claims, it won't change the fact that Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted or sex trafficked anyone, man, woman, adult, or minor. Bullshit, in my opinion. They added, we live in a world where anyone can file a lawsuit for any reason. Fortunately, a fair and impartial judicial system exists to find the truth, and Mr. Combs is confident he will prevail in court. Jane Doe is represented by attorney Tony Busby, who has filed lawsuits on behalf of 120 clients. She is seeking damages against Combs. Combs is currently detained in Brooklyn, New York. So that is kind of some breaking news there. And something else released by TMZ in the last couple of days. Diddy is facing yet another lawsuit from Tony Busby's clients, and this time around it's from an anonymous female plaintiff who alleges the mogul trafficked her as an underage girl. Moreover, TMZ claims that he paid her and other minors to work at a Miami party in 2020. In addition, the accuser claims that this party was a large sexual gathering in a warehouse, and the documents allege that Sean Combs formally made the announcement and toast to get things started. Furthermore, the woman claims that another man she calls her, quote, trafficker, had sedated her by this point. As for other details about this alleged situation, the accuser alleges that she was 15 years old at the time and that various individuals had already exposed her to this life by the time she was 12. Per the lawsuit, she went to a designated curtained-off space with a bed in the middle of it, and she was sexually assaulted with approximately 20 men over the course of the next few hours. While she did not point to Diddy as one of these men, she did allege that she could see him in another area having sex with a Latina female that, by the accuser's estimation, was allegedly between 12 and 13 years old. On that note, the accuser in this lawsuit alleges that this other underage girl at the time was part of her same trafficked group. She claimed that Diddy and others watched her engage in sexual relations and that her trafficker took her and other alleged underage girls to a covert location after the party ended. This lawsuit seeks damages from Combs, his companies, etc. Finally, this accuser claims that a sting operation in Virginia 2 years after this incident eventually rescued her from this alleged sex trafficking scheme. Even though Diddy seemingly hasn't responded to this new lawsuit at press time, we presume that he and his legal team will deny any wrongdoings just like they have for a long time. There's no doubt about it. They're going to deny it. How fucking sick is that? And one more for you. This one really making headlines the other day. I'm just going to do a little short quote of the article here. It says Sean Diddy Combs' lawyer wants to quit sex trafficking case. One of the attorneys for Sean Diddy Combs in his sex trafficking case wants to quit the hip-hop mogul's defense team. Defense lawyer Anthony Rico filed notice this past Thursday in Manhattan federal court that he no longer wants to represent Combs, writing, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel. Rico is one of 6 attorneys representing Combs, and he did not offer any details about the decision. The court must first sign off on his decision to leave that case. Combs, 55, has pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking, etc. Rico said he had discussed leaving the defense team with Combs' lead attorney and added the move would not cause a delay in Combs' trial. Now, a lot of people have been making a huge deal out of that. Really, this is not a huge deal. This happens all the time, especially in high-profile cases where you have very powerful attorneys. And most of the time, it's because they're not the lead attorney. And look, these attorneys will argue with each other a lot, but it happens almost every day. What I have heard behind the scenes is that, and I have no direct evidence of this. This is a rumor that I'm repeating. I want to say that. But what I've heard behind the scenes is that this guy, very powerful attorney in his own right, was kind of sixth down on that list of attorneys in the decision-making process. And he just couldn't deal with that. He had his way of how he wanted to proceed with the case, and he wasn't seeing eye to eye with the other members of Diddy's legal team. So I don't know if there's any fire here. I know a lot of people online have been hypothesizing that, oh, well, he knows Diddy's guilty, and at this point in time, he's quitting because he doesn't want his name associated with that. I definitely don't think that's the case at all. I think that there's just been some disagreements between the way that the legal process should run on Diddy's defense team, and he didn't have a whole lot of say in it. He was down the list on those attorneys, from what I understand. So there you have it. I definitely wanted to bring it up, and that's all I got for you right now on a Diddy update. We have some exciting things coming for you. A brand new series is going to be starting. It's called Exposed Investigates. And the first case that we're going to tackle, and you're going to follow me on a journey of investigating, is the case of Micah Miller. This made global headlines when it went down, and I covered it on another show that I used to co-host, was very familiar with that case. And as recently as 2 days from when I'm recording this episode, J.P. Miller, who is Micah Miller's estranged ex-husband before she died, he has now got a major lawsuit slapped on him for sex crimes galore. But I can't just tell you that story. I've got to tell you the whole story. You know how we roll here at Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite. I'm going to give you all the information, not just parts and pieces. So we're going to start at the beginning with Micah Miller, and we're going to work our way up to that lawsuit against J.P. Miller that was just filed. So look for that. It'll drop at some point next week. Not sure exactly what day just yet. Thank you so much for listening. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/exposed podcast files. I drop bonus episodes, commercial-free early releases of every episode that we put out. Also, we give quarterly gifts to our top-tier Patreon members, and we drop files, pictures, all kinds of things of what we discuss here on Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite. So check that out. I could not do this show without my Patreon members. Love them, love them, love them. And until next time, for Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.